Here now to discuss Fox News political contributor Tammy Bruce. Also, she's an independent Women's Voice president. Rick Unger from the Pod Complex, he's the host there. And Mitch Rochelle, he's a partner at PwC. All right, Tammy, President Trump connecting or trying to connect this amazing economy, household wealth, job openings to the midterm elections. And, you know, I keep saying, I think the Republicans, unfortunately, are victims of their own success. Everyone's doing so well, they don't care about the economy when they get in the voting.
That's right. And you get into this pattern where, and it's true whether it's good or bad, when it was bad under Obama, everybody thought and they were told this is the new normal, get used to it. In this case, it's the same dynamic. We're living our lives, things are happening a certain way, and we're busy. We're busy raising our families and, fortunately, busy with great new jobs and maybe busy with our vacations that we can take now. And then you begin to believe, because America is the greatest country on earth, that this is just what happens with us. The president's job, and he's not a politician in understanding this sense, but I think his advisors are advising him correctly, and he understands that the American people have to know, and I've been talking about this as well, they can't presume that the American people know what the difference is and who's done this and how this occurs. It is, of course, because we're fabulous, but there has to be management, and that is part of the small job that government should do in having policies as the president does. So his job is to, yes, do tweets like that, but then it's got to be local people running for office about the local dynamic of what's happening there and the connection with the president's policies. That is how people will make decisions in the midterm, not on what they think of him personally. And that's why they have to continue to reinforce this.
Although the polls suggest that people are now focused on other things. And again, you know, I think it's because we sort of take it for granted. You know, this is a wind in our sails. It's fantastic. We enjoy it. Now, what's the next thing to worry about? And it's things like, I guess, healthcare that keeps coming to the top, Rick.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. You would think that with the booming economy, this would play into the hands of the Republicans. Oddly enough, because people are doing better, they're focusing on these other things, and it actually might end up hurting the Republicans to some degree. You have a bad economy, people are definitely voting their pocketbook. You have a good economy, I think you're right, Charles. I think the top issue will be health care, and there I think the Democrats have a pretty good edge.
Although, anecdotally, Mitch, you know, I drive around and I look at the strip malls, I'm seeing help wanted signs, I'm seeing them everywhere, right? And I know people are feeling like, this is it. You know, people feel great. No matter how they feel about President Trump personally, I think it's Quinnipiac, they do that poll. Where's the economy? Excellent is at its highest level ever, 21%. Combined with good, 70%. So everyone feels like this economy is gangbusters right now.
No question. And look at it. This is tax policy in action. So the tax law didn't pass until very end of December. It took businesses a while to sort of process it. Now productivity's up, employment's up, corporate earnings are up, and all of that there's a wealth effect.
But isn't it ironic, though, because some people are saying, I think the majority of people are still saying, at least according to an article in Bloomberg today, that that the tax benefits, for the most part, went to corporate America.
They're right.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily agree with that, because you see the benefits that went to employees that got that one-time bonus, which I don't believe is a one-time bonus. You're not going to really feel the benefits for a lot of people because of the way withholdings work, not to be the wonky accountant in a room, but you're not going to feel that until perhaps 2019 when people start getting tax refunds. But the fact of the matter is, I think that money is back in the economy. It's being spent, and you can see consumer spending is up. You can see household income is up. I think there's a lot of metrics out there.
It is interesting that second quarter, according to the Fed, household net worth up 2.2 trillion. Second quarter corporate profits up 2.0 trillion. I mean, what's wrong, Tammy, with the same tide lifting all ships?
Well, you know, and it is, but to the point here that people have got to be reminded about what to expect and what's coming up and why this has happened and how. The fact is, though, confidence is the key part. We've discussed this before. It is about what's in your wallet. But there's a psychology to the idea of, do we have good leadership? Do they know what they're doing? Do I have the freedom to trust that this will continue? That is on people's minds. And as a result, they will spend. And that's why you're looking at a resurgence of retail. They are going to make decisions based on maybe taking more credit. The housing prices have gone up, which adds to that household wealth. They've got to be reminded why. But it's still the psychology that tells them, Our government is good, leadership is good, the decision making is good, and it's not an accident that they know that this is part of a process that occurs.
Rick is licking his chops. Before you get in there, I see you champing at the bit. We yesterday discussed, is this going to be the best Christmas, best holiday season ever? And I got to tell you, so far the data suggests that it could. Look at some of this. Those are just your job hirings. Remember, a lot of people thought Target might be ready to bite the bullet a year ago. They're hiring 120,000 people at $12 an hour. And, of course, yesterday Deloitte said we're going to have $1.1 trillion with the T spent over the holiday period.
Wow.
All right, go ahead and debunk all of
that. Look, all of these numbers sound great, and I don't want to be the wet blanket, but look, you're right on the number on household income. What was missed in this whole thing is the reason. And the primary reason is because you now have 2 adults in the family that have to go work. And I wonder.
You do know that when your girl, right, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez made the same claim.
She's not my girl.
It was debunked by a lot of people.
No, she's.
How many households have 2 people working?
Wait. The report that came out last week, I've got it. I read it. The report that said we're now up to 61,500 as average income pointed out clearly that the primary reason was because of people working more hours or more people.
But the wealth
working.
comes in from the stock market, from the value of homes as well. All of that.
Well, we're talking 2 different things here, right? We're talking. You're talking median income, and this report today was about household wealth.
Correct.
Barely
2 different
50% of, to your point, Tammy, barely 50% of Americans who work have a 401k program.
That's because everything was destroyed in the last 10 years.
That may be, but they're not getting the benefit of that wealth. Let me talk about the taxes, because I follow it really closely. No question that the corporations benefit.
Sure.
I'm okay with that.
Sure.
No question that people at the top ends, I'm going to benefit from it. But you talk to people who are expecting a large amount or a reasonably large amount in their paychecks, they're getting
I don't disagree with that. Listen, I've been talking about that for a while, and I do believe corporations better wake up to the political tea leaves with respect to that. I even have people in this building saying, hey, in January, $1,000 sounded like a lot. Seeing how great things are doing right now.
A small number of people who got that $1,000.
But I will also say, since he referenced this report, the median income, the problem is between 50 and 75,000. Through there, Mitch, it's amazing upward mobility. And by the way, every single race now at an all-time high is a percentage of households in the top income bracket, including over 500,000 black households. When I graduated from high school, the number was 8,000. So we've come a long way.
And the one thing, Rick, that I'll push back on is if you look at household spending versus household income, so that's the same household, whether or not you have 1 worker or 2 or 1.5. Fact of the matter is we were spending well in advance of our income levels, and boy, that's caught up the other way. So I think when you look at the economy,
we've got dry powder, which is why we should be able to continue this.
Correct.
I know you wanted to explain why this is not necessarily unique when a president
No, it was interesting because you guys sent me a question I thought was fascinating, which is, why is the economy doing so well, the market's doing so well, when the president's got some problems he has to deal with? And I went looking. It was fascinating. Going back to the first president who there was impeachment discussed, President Tyler. Well, that began during that period that they were stressing him out. We saw the beginning of the antebellum cycle, which, as you know, is one of the longest bull run markets in our history. In the month prior to the Senate's vote to impeach Andrew Jackson, the market gained 10%. In the weeks when the Clinton sex scandal came to light, the market went up and really went up after it came to an end. A little bit different with Nixon. My conclusion, either they thought that those presidents' economic policies were so bad that maybe they'd be gone, or more likely, the Dow don't care.
Or more likely, Bill Clinton, for instance, was a very smart politician. He went to workfare, getting rid of welfare, and he did work with Republicans. Maybe that's a message for Democrats.
He did.
Yeah, and look, I think that there's to look at what's happening now through some historical wave period is a mistake. Donald Trump is unique. The regulations, getting rid of 22 for every one that's brought up is unique. He's a businessman. That is unique. He knows the framework of what's happening here. Plus, he's brought in on both the technical aspect of what he could accomplish and the emotional desire for him to be successful, because we saw that cliff coming up and we wanted that we did not want to go there. So he's benefiting from all of that in addition to being successful and delivering on every promise. And that helps frame of mind.
Real quick, because we got to go. They've been asking me to wrap for a minute here. Does it continue, Mitch, in your mind?
I think so, but I think you're going to see corporate profits continue at the level that they are. Next year is the big unanswered question.
What about for Main Street?
Main Street, listen, when you have a 3.9% unemployment rate and you have companies that can't find workers, I don't see how it turns around unless the next recession.
So we're gonna see raises start to accelerate in this country.
They have to. When you can't find workers, they have to.
Thanks a lot.
Yep.
That was fantastic.